Slumber Maniacs. If I were you, I'd be shaking in my pajamas right now, because you're about to get in the ring with the Slumber Taker, the 12-time WWZ Undisputed Drowsy Weight Champion, the only WWZ snoozy star who remains undefeated come bedtime. So fair warning, if you choose to step up to the Slumber Taker, let me assure you, ooh yeah, you're going down. I will tuck you under the covers. I will bury you in pillows. And make no mistake, I will put you to bed, Rip Van Winkle style. I have laid countless snoozy stars to rest during my time in the WWZ. And if you think you can handle it, I invite you to hear tonight's story about my greatest sleep match of all time. But before we start the story, do what I do before every match. First, tense every muscle in your body as tight as you can. Then relax those muscles and shake them all out. Again. And relax. Oh, you think you're good, huh? Well, let's take 3 deep breaths, as big as the Slumber Taker's bicep. In. Out. In. Out. In. Out. And now, prepare to hear about my greatest opponent, the only snoozy star who made me come close to dozing off. Tonight, I give you the story of the Slumber Taker versus the Sandman. Many years ago, at Slumber Mania 7, when I was a younger Slumber Taker slowly climbing the ranks in the WWZ, I earned my first shot at the title. Since it would be my first shot at the title, I wasn't going to sleep on my opponent. That opponent was the one and only Bedhead. Bedhead was not a snoozy star to be messed with. Bedhead was a sneaky competitor. Bedhead made you feel like taking a midday nap. The kind of nap that you plan to be a couple of hours but ends up being a full-throttle 8-hour sleep. The type of rest that messes up your whole entire week. If I was going to get Bedhead to head to bed, I knew I had to pull out all the stops. I gave Bedhead some warm milk. I turned up the heat to 79 degrees, and I hit Bedhead with my foolproof moves like the yawn drop, the snooze button, and my ultimate finisher, the tucked-in pillow driver. And after a long and lumbering back and forth and back and forth, Bedhead finally curled up with a pillow, and when the referee had finished counting, 1, 2, 3, Bedhead was down for the count. In his post-match interview, Bedhead said it was the deepest sleep they'd ever experienced. Bedhead dreamed of laying on a warm beach at dusk, a fire crackling by Bedhead's back, relaxing to the sounds of the waves foaming up the coast, gently knocking over sand castles and smoothing them over. If you ask Bedhead about that match today, even he will tell you that losing the title wasn't so bad after a sleep like that. Now, just because this was my first title shot, it doesn't mean I was fresh on the scene. That's right, brother. Before I was champion, I had tumbled with dozens of snoozy stars, and I put every one of them to sleep. Every single competitor they put in the ring with me. Do you know what that does to a sleep wrestler's body? Taking the amount of pillows to the face, the amount of times I had to force myself to stop, resting my eyes for a bit, the times I wanted to throw in the towel and gently drift off to Betty Bye. When I finally won the drowsy weight title, I was all but ready to hang up my sheets and end on top. Because once I was on top of the mountain, I planned to reward my hard work with the most comfortable slumber imaginable. I customized a new, soft Slumber Taker bed fitted to me, the Slumber Taker. I had Egyptian cotton sheets shipped in and freshly puffed pillows made. I installed bed warmers and blinds that blacked out the sun. I would finally be able to enjoy a complete and total rest. Away from the WWZ. Away from slumber mania. Just me and my dreams. But my dreams would have to hold their horses for now, because I had just won the WWZ drowsy weight title for the first time in my career. I put Bedhead flat on his back for the 1, 2, 3. This wasn't a time for sleeping. This was time for basking. After putting Bedhead to bed in front of an arena full of slumber maniacs, I raised my WWZ drowsy weight title high in the sky and declared that I had finally become the greatest snoozy star of all time. Nobody could put the Slumber Taker to bed. Nobody but the Slumber Taker, that is. Once I was done posing, I cinched my title around my waist and started to get a little teary-eyed. I had achieved a lot in my career, but this was it. I had climbed the mountaintop. It wouldn't get any better than this. I remember saying to myself, "Slumber Taker, it's time to say goodbye." I waved to my roaring fans, put a microphone up to my mouth and said, "Looks like the Slumber Taker can finally rest. Goodbye, WWZ Universe. I'd like to take the opportunity to announce my retire." But just at that moment, to my surprise, the night wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Because before I could squeeze out another syllable, I heard the entrance music of The Sandman. The Sandman is a legendary WWZ snoozy star. Mythical even. He's in the same league as WWZ All-Stars, Sleeping Beauty, 40 Winks, Siesta, and Shut Eye. And as the Sandman walked towards me, I wondered, what could he have to say to me? Did the Sandman want to welcome me to his level of WWZ legends? The Sandman grabbed the microphone out of my meaty hands and said, "Slumber Taker, you think you're the king of comfort, the sultan of sleep, and you've clearly made a name for yourself in the WWZ. But you don't know slumber like the Sandman. I'm a WWZ drowsy weight champion myself. I've put every member of the Pantheon to bed. Dozer, Comatose, the sleep-talking man. You name it, and I've put them down. So if you want to be the best, you have to beat the best. And the best is me, the Sandman." And before I knew it, the Sandman reached out his hand and blew sleeping dust right in my face. I remember my head feeling light and my eyelids getting heavy. The irresistible urge to let go and fall asleep overwhelmed my mind. A perfect, peaceful dream permeated my thoughts. The last thing I remember was the Sandman standing over me, stuffing a fluffed pillow under my head. Then the Sandman said, "I challenge you for your title, Slumber Taker. And when I'm done with you, they'll need to roll you out of here in a sleeping bag. Except I didn't hear that because I was fast asleep and dreaming of the day when I could hang up my boots to start a new, more tranquil chapter in the life of the Slumber Taker. Specifically, I was dreaming of a day where I could set up on my couch and curl up with a big cup of soup. I could put my feet up on my ottoman and watch the snowflakes dance in the sky as I sank deeper and deeper into the cushions, slowly rubbing my face into my furry blankets tucked up under my chin. A steamy chicken and rice soup in my favorite Slumber Taker mug. Celery and carrots mixed in. Onion and peas. The steam dancing off the surface of the soup and the savory smell filling my nostrils and soothing my mind. If I didn't have to be a snoozy star, I'd spend every day just like this. But I still had work to do. Because what I'm told is that a moment later, while I was slumbering in the middle of the ring, the chairman of the WWZ, Mr. McNapp, walked into the arena for a big announcement. Mr. McNapp knows a good match when he sees it, and he didn't want to waste a minute to promote it. Mr. McNapp declared that at the next Slumber Mania, the main event would be the Slumber Taker versus the Sandman in the first ever sleeping bag match. The rules were simple, brother. No holes barred. Anything goes. The first snoozy star to zip their opponent into a sleeping bag wins. The winner would not only get the WWZ Drowsyweight title, but eternal glory in the history books of the WWZ. 2 weeks later, I woke up feeling sluggish and slow. This wouldn't do. The Sandman is a legendary snoozy star, and if I was going to put the Sandman to Betty by, I needed to act like a legend. I needed to think like a legend. There was only one thing to do. I traveled to the pantheon of all-time great snoozy stars to seek their counsel. The all-time greats live in a pristine, lush gallery custom-made for deep, deep sleep. Each member of the pantheon rests in a bed made especially for them. The WWZ snoozy star named Sleeping Beauty sleeps in a bed fit for a princess with drapes all around to shade out the light. The WWZ snoozy star named Siesta sleeps on a plush cushion of cotton near a big window so that she can feel the warm sun on her cheeks. And my mentor, Shut-Eye, rests comfortably in an inner tube, floating down a lazy river. I sauntered up to the WWZ snoozy star named Shut-Eye, feeling like a true ding-dong for waking them up, but I had questions that needed answering. What else was I to do? But to my good fortune, Shut-Eye slowly lifted their eyes and muttered, "Well, well, well, if it isn't the Slumber Taker. Finally made it to the pantheon, huh? I thought you'd get here one way or another." I was flattered, but I explained to the infamous Shut-Eye that I was only visiting. I couldn't join the ranks of these snoozy stars until I figured out how to put the Sandman to sleep. Shut-Eye scoffed and gently flicked the water, feeling the hazy current of the river below them. Shut-Eye slowly leaned in and whispered his advice. If you want to make somebody sleep, all you have to do is let go. That made me scratch my hairy head. I asked Shut-Eye, "Brother, what do you mean, let go? Isn't the point to stay awake? I mean, you're a WWZ legend and you're telling me to just let it all go?" Shut-Eye explained that every member of the WWZ has their way. Every member has their philosophy. But the one thing they all can agree on is that the deepest sleep, the most irresistible sleep, can only happen when you feel safe and sound. I didn't want to admit it, but I was still a bit confused. Shut-Eye could sense it, so he held my hands with both of his. And with a comforting certainty, Shut-Eye asked me if I had ever been at a sleepover with friends, laughing and playing and watching movies. I nodded and Shut-Eye continued. And when it's time to go to bed, nobody goes to bed. Everybody is too scared to be the first one to sleep. So you watch another movie or play another video game or have endless talks about gobbledygook, waiting for anybody to conk out so you can finally let go. I tell you this, Slumber Taker, don't be afraid to be that person. Don't be afraid to let go. Because when you let go, they let go. I wanted our conversation to continue, but Shut-Eye's lids finally shut and he drifted downstream to a sun-drenched lagoon. Oh, how I wanted an inner tube of my own. Oh, yes, brother. How I wished I could float with Shut-Eye, letting my toes drag in the warm water as I drifted off into a calm bay. But I couldn't. Not yet. So, with Shut-Eye's words in my mind, I headed back to my gymnasium for training. Seeing how good the members of the Pantheon had it, I was more determined than ever before. I started with opening my eyelids and then squeezing them shut for 30 reps. Eyelids up, eyelids down, eyelids up, eyelids down. Deep wrestler breaths. All the while, running the words of Shut-Eye over and over in my mind. When you let go, they let go. When you let go, they let go. I had trained myself so well, the next few months seemed like a blur. Drifting in and out of consciousness became second nature to me. I even perfected the ancient art of sleepwalking. I would sleepwalk to the gym, sleepwalk to the grocery store. Heck, on the night of the big match, I sleepwalked right into the arena and straight to my locker room. I shook myself awake and focused on the task at hand. After all, tonight was Slumber Mania, and I was about to face off against my toughest opponent, the Sandman. I laced up my boots, rubbed the crusties out of my eyes, and when my entrance music hit, I stomped out and I greeted every slumber maniac in the audience with a big, long stretch and a snore that could saw a tree in half. And then, the Sandman's entrance music played. Silky and dazed, the Sandman sauntered into the ring as we locked eyes and sized each other up. Looking at him, I remembered when the Sandman blew sleeping dust in my face, and I thought about how well I had slept, and how I had dreamt of the salty soup hitting the back of my throat and rolling into my tummy. Yeah. I love soup as much as I love being the Slumber Taker. But at that moment, sizing up my competition, I had to cast those thoughts out. Those thoughts would be for after the match when I was an all-time great. Because I needed to focus on the match. The bell rung. I could hardly hear the hollow hum of the ringside bell because I kept thinking, if you let go, they'll let go. And before I could bounce off the ropes, the Sandman got the jump on me and stuck a thick mug of herbal tea under my nose. I breathed in the cozy aromas of cinnamon, apple, and brown sugar, and was transported to my cozy, comfy couch in the great big bay window. Only instead of snowflakes dancing in the sky, it was brown and gold leaves waving goodbye to their mother oak tree. I wrapped my meaty hands around the ropes of the wrestling ring to catch my balance for a moment. But as soon as I felt the woody texture of the rope, the Sandman squished a feather pillow against my cheeks. I swear on all my championship belts, I've never felt a softer pillow in my long career. And in no time at all, before I knew what was what, I was leaning against the turnbuckle, wrapped in a giant, hooded sweatshirt. And just when I thought I couldn't get any cozier, the Sandman added a weighted blanket. I was practically pinned. Because, sure, I could have pushed it off, but I didn't really want to. In fact, this type of blanket was so inviting and supportive. It was like being held by a gentle giant, and I snuggled down deeper. I was woozy for sure, but I wasn't done just yet. I don't know if it was my wrestling instincts or my sleeping instincts, but in that moment, I let out a big yawn. This caught the Sandman by surprise. The Sandman couldn't help but yawn himself, pressing his flat palm against his lips. Nobody can watch somebody yawn without returning the favor. The Sandman let out a second, good, long yawn. And that was all I needed. Before he could focus his gaze on me, I shuffled and fumbled out from beneath the weighted blanket. I peeled off my fuzzy sweatshirt and wrapped him in a cushy cocoon. I turned his lush textiles against him, and I saw the Sandman's eyelids get heavier and droopier. That's right, brother. My plan was working. But before I could set up the Sandman for the tucked-in pillow driver, I let out a big yawn. And then another. I thought to myself, I don't remember these yawns being part of the plan. And then it dawned on me that those yawns were real yawns. I rubbed my eyes, and when I looked at my big meaty hands, to my surprise, they were both caked in dust. Sleeping dust. Sandman must have snuck some onto the weighted blanket. I looked at the Sandman, and he looked at me. Our bodies swayed back and forth. Two drowsy weight champions trying to hold on. Neither of us had any tricks left, and all I wanted to do at that moment was float down a slow river on a warm inner tube, just like Shut-Eye. And that's when I remembered Shut-Eye's advice. If you let go, they'll let go. I spotted the sleeping bag that was meant for me. I rolled out of the squared circle and knuckled my sleeping bag. I felt the buttery soft flannel and the cool nylon shell as I brought the bag back into the ring. It was time to enjoy a beautiful slumber. The crowd was so silent you could hear the long zip of the sleeping bag zipper. Such a satisfying sound. I slowly turned my head to the Sandman. I couldn't believe my dusty eyes. To my delight, the Sandman had also grabbed his sleeping bag. I could see the Sandman nodding off. Turns out he was planning on turning in just like me. I laid down and inched my body down deeper in the bag. The Sandman matched me inch by inch. I slowly zipped my sleeping bag from the bottoms of my toes, up across my belly, right up to my nose. The Sandman and I traded slow blinks. I let out my final yawn. I let go of my eyelids and felt them fall. The last thing I remember seeing was the Sandman fully zipped into his own sleeping bag, his teddy bear wrapped in his arms, his eyes completely shut and relaxed. The Sandman had let go. I thought I was going to doze off first, but the Sandman had beat me to it. The referee waved at the timekeepers. The timekeepers gently rang the bell. And the last thing I remember was Mr. McNabb announcing that I was your WWZ Drowsy Weight Champion. I had won. I had proved myself to all the doubters, the haters, every slumber maniac in the WWZ universe. I had reached the top of the mountain, the front page of the history books. I could finally rest with the knowledge that I had become the greatest snoozy star of all time. I was so happy, not only for retaining my title, but for finally being able to retire on top. I earned the sleep of a lifetime. And with one last yawn, I retired to my big warm bed in the hall of all-time greats. I entered my customized sleeping chambers and laid my head on my giant bed, fit for only the Slumber Taker himself. I hugged my drowsy weight title belt against my chest and stuck a pillow between my knees. It's time to let go, I thought. And after 1, 2, 3, I was down for the count.